Good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce our guest speaker for today's session, Dr. Nagma Nigarja. She is a public health professional with an experience of working in projects focusing on RMN-CH plus A. She has done her Masters of Public Health and has a bachelor's degree in dental surgery. She is currently working as project manager in the project Mainstreaming of Creches to Reduce Malnutrition at Public Health Resource Network. Previously, she has worked with Child in Need Institute based at Kolkata West as a consultant providing technical support to health and nutrition projects in the field implementation, capacity building, developing training material, and much more. She has been awarded with Infosys Fellowship. She has keen interest in health promotion and health communication and has undertaken a certificate course on social and behavior change communication. She is also trained in Vihasa Felicitation, that stands for Values in Healthcare, a Spiritual Approach, and she enjoys working with community a lot. I would just like to brief you about today's webinar session on social and behavioral change communication because it's quite important from the public health perspective. Social and behavior change communication plays a role in addressing all the behavioral and social aspects of disease prevention and control. Interventions focusing on behavior change communications have enormous potential to alter current patterns of disease. Even the National Health Policy of India, a visionary document for all the public health professionals in India, stresses on the integration of social and behavioral change communication in order to influence demand generation and bring about positive change in the health of the community. So with this brief introduction of the topic of today's webinar, I would like to hand over our session to Dr. Nagma. Nagma, we welcome you. You may please, begin with the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me here. I have one request to all of you. Can we just quickly turn on our cameras for say 30 seconds so that I don't feel like I'm talking to a wall? Just for 30 seconds, if possible. And we can just say hello to each other, because this is going to be an interactive session as much as possible. Hello.
Hi, Nagma.
Good to see you, Priya.
Yeah, same here.
So I don't see many of the cameras going on. I think people have not changed yet. Okay, anyway. Maybe at the end of the session, we'll be able to see each other because that makes it more interactive and more lively. Okay, I see Akbar. So, okay, hello. I see Vinod J. Hello. So before I begin, I have this question. Is the class comfortable with English-Hindi mix or Hindi or English? Gujarati nahi kar paungi, sorry.
So I think candidates from other nationalities as well. So it will be good if we go with English. Because many people we won't be able to understand Hindi.
Okay, so you have an international base of students as well. That's great. Okay, so let's start. Is it visible?
Yes, Nagma, it is visible. We can go ahead.
Okay, once again, good morning, everyone. And I hope you're going to listen this session in the pink of your health because, news is saying that there's again a surge of cases. I hope that you people are all safe and in the best of your health. So Priya has already told you about me a little bit, but I would like to start this session with talking with a little bit about the work that I do, that my organization do. So I work with Public Health Resource Network. It's an organization of public health enthusiasts, I would say, and public health visionaries and pioneers. who try to tackle the difficulties in achieving health for all in our nation. And the project that I am associated with, as Priya rightly mentioned, is mainstreaming crashes to reduce malnutrition in Orissa. I am currently placed at Raigada, which is one of the districts in Orissa. Under this project, what we intended to do is establish and then run 150 creches across 5 PVTG districts. So PVTG is particularly vulnerable tribal groups. These are the groups that are becoming elusive in the modern days. These are the groups that are extremely vulnerable, and they have all sort of crises, be it agriculture, health, and education, and all those things. We, under the ambit of health, we are trying to focus on the health of children who are under the age of 3 years. And by this age group, so there are 3 reasons I would like to enlist. First is this is the age group we all know is extremely vulnerable. And when it comes to the tribal population, the parents, especially the mothers, she start working as soon as the child is say 6 months, and sometimes even earlier than that. The child is left behind because the father is of course going in the field and working, and mothers as well, because they have to support it, and it's agriculture is their basic livelihood means. So the children, the very young children, are left behind either on the mercy of grandparents who are themselves old and who themselves require care, or at the hand of elder siblings. And what is the age of these siblings? These are sometimes 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, and these are specifically girl child. The boy child still have the they still have the privilege to go out and play, but the girl child has to sit back and take care of the child. So the girl child, or even the male siblings, they are at the age where they are supposed to be nurtured and cared and loved and enjoy their childhood, but they get the burden of taking care of a younger sibling. So these are some of the complexities in the areas that we work. So we thought of coming up with community-based creches. So these are not corporate daycare centers where you pay a fees or you get with all the modern amenities. These are community-based creches which are run in community halls or some rented places from the community in their hamlets, run by the community members. So each creche is run by 2 creche workers, and these creche workers come from the community, selected by the community and monitored by the community. So this is the whole the context of my project, and this project of course focuses on malnutrition and the care of the child, early education and stimulation, their hygiene. But in between, we also try and provide avenues for behavior change for the community in relation to the nutrition and the overall well-being of their children. We also tried to reach the last hamlet as much as possible, given our resources, given the limited funding we get. So we have tried to reach there, and luckily we have been able to model these creches, and the government of Orissa has taken up these creches. Okay, I think I should not take much time talking about the work that I do, and get started with the topic, because I get passionate and I get blown away. Okay. So every batch has the student age. Those who are versed with what's the definition of health. My batch had a few. I'm sure you also have some of the classmates who are well versed with the definition of health. And if this was a offline class, a face-to-face interaction, I would have definitely asked some of you to tell me that. And the second is, what are the levels of prevention? Epidemiology, like we dekha hai that epidemiology, it begins with the topic of levels of prevention. So these 2 questions are the basis of everything we study in public health, according to me, because public health, it's essentially about preventing the disease. Right. And please feel free to stop me wherever you feel like, okay, this needs to be cleared or this needs to be, revisited. Please do that. I know it's webinar, it might get chaotic if people start, unmuting their mics, but please do that. I would prefer a little chaos than this dead silence. Or you can ask your queries at the end of it, whatever you feel like. So, okay, so what is health? I am not going to go into the definition. You all must be well versed with it. But why I have put this here? Because we know that health is and should not be seen just from the biomedical approach. We need to see the social determinants, the socio-ecological ambit of the state of health. And when we try to see it from epidemiology, especially when we try to see public health, there are levels of prevention, and essentially the levels of prevention are first the primordial, the primary, secondary, and tertiary. So this topic is almost about the top two, the primordial and the primary prevention, because in public health we want to focus more and more on that rather than the secondary and tertiary. Secondary and tertiary are, of course, very important, but in the view of public health, these two things are extremely important. So now, because we have most of you have completed, I think, 1 year of public health, so you know how important the social determinants of health are and how important the primary and the primordial level of prevention is. So now, since we know that our health is just not the matter of presence of the microorganism or the risk factor, or just me having low immunity, or being prone to diseases or disorders, or just the genetics, this has got layers and layers of and I'm sure all of you know these layers, but this is just for your revision, that the state of our health is influenced by a lot of factors that we can divide in the individual factors, social and community networks, and the general socio-economic, cultural, and environmental conditions. So this is just revision. Okay. So to attain this health, to undergo the primordial and the primary level of prevention, what we need to do is we need to promote health. So if we don't promote health, healthy people would become unhealthy, and then the first and the second level of prevention is of no use. You have to start with treatment, and you have to start with rehabilitation or whatever procedures that needs to be done. So to keep the healthy population healthy and to bring back the unhealthy population into healthy, we need health promotion. So what is health promotion? I mean, it's a simple term, but because this is an academic discussion, we need to know the definitions. But I am expecting that all of us know what is health promotion. Health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase control of determinants of health and thus improve health. So this is nothing but a process where the people are informed, are enabled to have control on the determinants of health and then improve their overall health, either improve it or maintain it or come back to the healthy stage. Okay. So health promotion is like, it's a bigger umbrella. It's a bigger concept. Under this, there are certain techniques, there are certain strategies through which we can do health promotion. So first, and you can say the ancient form, it's very primitive, is the education. So we believe that health education is going to be sufficient. Health education will do everything. You just run jingles, you just tell your patient that you should eat healthy and the problem will be solved. So this was a very primitive thought that this will promote health and this is how health should be promoted. But since we have, after say Alma Ata, after reading a lot, after a lot of research, after a lot of debates and everything, we have come to the knowledge that health is is a small, it's a, if there's an atom, so the atom is the social context, and the health, just the microorganism, and just your immunity is the neutron, or even smaller than that. So the bigger ambit is the social context. Okay, so sirf health education is going to be of no use. Of course, it is important. Of course, providing information is important, but it is alone is of no good use. Then social marketing, very important. I think a lot of you might have seen Doordarshan, and a lot of time there used to be this advertise of "Roop Tera Mastana, Pyar Mera Deewana, Bhool Koi Humse Na Ho Jaye," and everybody would get uncomfortable. That was one brilliant social marketing, promoting family planning, promoting condoms and contraceptives in the prime time when a lot of people watch television. That was a beautiful example of social marketing, and that is needed. But only that is not going to solve the problem in a holistic manner. Then came a little better version, which is BCC, which is very much, it has been able to bring changes for quite long. But then came SBCC, which we want to discuss today. That is social and behavior change communication, and not just the health education, not just the social marketing, not just the BCC, but SBCC, which will provide you a holistic ambit where you can, apply your strategies and gain outcomes that you. I hope I'm making sense. And I have to see the time. Okay. So SBCC, there is this definition. You can read, I can read, but I would like to revisit this slide once we have understood behavior, because you can see there are 4 words: social, behavior, change, and communication. So you see, behavior change is the middle part. It's very important because that's the outcome. But we also want a social change, and how we want to do these 2 things is using communication. So this is SBCC. We will see it once we have seen behaviors. Okay, so what is a behavior? So tera behavior, your behavior is unhealthy. You have, or if someone says your behavior is very healthy, what does that mean? So behavior is nothing but it's some habit or certain actions that we do with specific frequency, that is, with repetition. There is a duration for that, and sometimes we do it with or without even knowing, with or without having the purpose. So this is basically how we act. So behavior is that. Behavior is not a one-time thing that we do. So if I was getting late for my class and I speeded up and accelerated, this one time, that is not behavior. But every time when I go in road and I am like driving rashly, that becomes behavior, whether it's conscious, unconscious, or on purpose or without purpose. So this is the characteristic of behavior, that it's repeated, it has a sequence. Now, to understand behavior, we need to know 3 things. For any behavior, there are either predisposing factors, there are enabling factors, and there are reinforcers. Predisposing factors are the one of my own characteristic, or the person's or the community's characteristics. What knowledge do they have? What beliefs or value system they have? Those are the predisposing factors. Then enabling factors are the environment or the skills that are provided to them, or that they learn so as to be able to accept that behavior or reject certain behavior. And then third are the reinforcers, that are like kind of a control that is provided by organizations, or say a country, or maybe UN, or whatever governing bodies are there. And reinforcers can be positive or negative. So we'll see. So when Corona started, we were all told to wear masks. So we had knowledge. That was the predisposing factors. We had social media and newspaper and television debates. If there is Corona and we need to wear masks. But a lot of us didn't have the enabling factor. A lot of us didn't know how to use it. We didn't have the skill. So whether the nose should be covered or whether it's just the mouth, or can we reuse the mask, can we wash it? So these were the enabling factors that were needed to be provided to the public, which happened later on. And then certain reinforcements. What happened? A lot of time people were seen not wearing masks in public places. So what has been done? A fine is being imposed on the people who are not using masks. So that is also a reinforcer. Although it's negative, although it's de-incentivizing, but it acts as a reinforcer. So for a behavior to function, these are the three critical things, or say these are three factors that help you make or break a behavior. Okay, so behavior, so we know what is behavior and how it is affected, but since we are talking this in a scientific manner, since we are going to apply this in our practical field, since a lot of things will be dependent on how we apply, how we communicate about behavior change, it is crucial and of utmost importance to understand what are the theories of behavior change. How behavior change. It is extremely important whether you want to do it through education, BCC or SBCC. Theories are really important. So we won't go much into depth, but we will try to have a glance of how the behavior change. So people over a period of time have tried to understand and have tried to generalize this kind of behavior changes like this, or this is the blueprint for how the behavior change. And of course, it's not 100% applicable for for particular behavior. This is going to work. There can be a combination of theories, and there can be a combination of models, and then new models develop out of the old theories and old models. But basically, we have to have some basic understanding that how these behavior change. What are the theories? I've already told you why we need to study theories, because we are going to perform this, we are going to do this, and we don't want to do harm out of it, we want to do good out of it. So we need to have a sound knowledge of theories of change. Okay, so first, and a very individual based theory. So this is the theory called as the stages of change model. This is applicable in the cases where the behavior is not very much affected by the social context, by the larger social networks or peers. It is mostly the individual behavior, and this can be useful in your strategies when you are using a counseling session, when you are using a home visit, when you are applying these strategies to bring about change. You have to keep this theory in mind. So there are basically 5 stages of change. When we are trying to change a behavior, we will go through these stages, and later a 6th stage was added. So first is the pre-contemplation stage. I think we should see this through the diagram. Okay. So here it is depicted in a circle. This can also be depicted in steps. So don't get confused if you tomorrow see a stage of change model which is depicted in stages. That is also true, but here it is more important to understand that there can be relapses. So when there is relapse, we will again, Okay, so let's see. So there is a pre-contemplation stage where you are not at all thinking about a behavior or a risk factor or anything. This is like pre-2020 era. Nobody was thinking about wearing a mask or even a disease that can be this deadly or that spreads this quickly. We were all in 2019 and enjoying the new year of 2020, and we were all in our pre-contemplation stage. Then came this news, okay, so China and all that. So we came into contemplation stage. Okay, there is this risk and there is this behavior that is going to save me from this, from getting this disease. And then once we have started thinking about it, we have to prepare it. We jump into preparing. So everybody rushed to markets. There was shortage of sanitizers and masks in the initial stages. So everybody prepared for it. We were buying sanitizers and masks, and then we took action. So every time we were going to buy groceries and coming back, we were using sanitizers. So every time we were doing. So that was action stage. Then we have to maintain it, and that is the most important complex or irritable thing. You might be able to do something for a certain period of time, but maintaining it is very, very difficult. So a lot of people wore masks in the initial days, but then people slipped back into, array, let it be, this, there's nothing, this is all a hoax, it is not happening, people who are dying, are not dying. So this kind of, this kind of beliefs and this kind of attitudes emerged, and people maintained it for some while, and then they again started not using it, and that's what is called relapse. We can again go back into relapse, and we can again start our unhealthy behavior or a risky behavior. But if we maintain it, we are out of this circle and we go into a stable behavior where it becomes a part of our life, where it becomes a constant, always present activity, action, or behavior. So this is the stages of change model. And here is a comic representation. We are just eating chips and chilling. Then we think, we are not doing it. We are having a healthy lifestyle. Then we read about it. Then we take action. Then we maintain it. But after some time, so there's this wedding or there is this festival. So we again go to relapse, and the circle, it starts. It goes on unless we have attained a stable behavior. So this is one theory, and this is most appropriate when you are trying to bring change in a behavior which is not very much affected by your peers or by your larger social context or your geopolitical context. So this is one example. You can see, I think we have discussed example. This is in relation of using a contraception. Okay. So the next major theory around behavior change is health belief model. This theory is mostly applicable in the behaviors that are based on our perceived benefits. Those are the behaviors those are affected by our peers or our social networks. So it is applicable in those behaviors. So for health belief model to work, it says that to bring about a change in behavior, my perceived risk of the disease or my perceived benefit of adopting a behavior should outweigh my perceived barrier to the behavior. So I'll tell you in simpler terms that me quitting smoke, I want to quit smoke. So my barrier in quitting the smoke is all my peers smoke. So all my office mates, they smoke. Whenever we party, we smoke. Whenever we go clubbing, we do hookah. That is my barrier. I am present in a situation where smoking is a mandate, where smoking is maybe considered cool. So that is my barrier. But what I perceive is the benefit of not smoking is way high. The benefit of quitting smoking is even higher. So when it's like this, when your benefit and your the risk of modifying it, the benefit of modifying is higher than the barrier, then only the change in behaviors happen. I hope I'm making sense. We'll see. So Anjum believes she's at risk of, Anjum is a lady, just a character. Anjum believes she's at risk of becoming pregnant, and then she believes that using contraception will reduce her risk. So she has some perception, she has got some beliefs that there will be risk reduction of unintended pregnancy. She also believes that maybe her husband might not be comfortable with it and he'll have an outrageous reaction. So that reaction is the barrier to adopting a behavior. So for her to shift to contraception, her perceived benefits have to outweigh the perceived outrageous behavior of his husband or maybe the in-laws or whatever. So for change to happen, there should be the benefit should outweigh the barriers to the. In her case, she educates herself, she started using contraception, and she believes that maybe the outrageous behavior is less important, and her being not getting unintended pregnancy is important, or it weighs higher than that. Okay, so the third theory is, so I'm not going to go a lot about all the theories. So there are these theories that tells that human are rational beings. Human will decide whether to accept a behavior or reject a behavior on the basis they see that they'll have, acceptance by the society, whether they are fitting in the social context. So this theory is very important and very crucial when you're planning strategies of health promotion for the behaviors that are governed by social norms. For example, if you're going to work in the prevention of early marriage, there are communities where early marriage is a social norm, is extremely accepted. Or for example, you are going to work for vaccination. There are communities who are resistant to vaccination. So for these behaviors to change, you have to keep in mind the theory of reasoned action. For these behaviors, you might not think much about the stages of change model, because that is more applicable when the behavior is more individualized. But for community change, for a situation where you want the norms to shift from one end to another end, from more negative to, and at that time you would like to think about the reasoned action theory, or the theory of planned behavior. So this is you can see the diagram, you can try and understand it. I will quickly tell you what this says. So there are attitudes, there are beliefs, then there are norms. So for me, the belief might be I want to use contraception, but the norm is that that child or the childbirth is God gifted, and if you are not accepting it, this is not good. You are going against God, or whatever thing is there. So there could be norms, and those could be subjectives as well. That would be your perception of the norm, and not exactly the norm, but the subjective norm. You think that the society will not accept you if you use contraception. They will, say bad things about you. They might not say, but you have this belief. You have subjective this thinking of having a subjective norm, and then there will be control factors. Control factors, again, these are like reinforcers. The things that are done by the government, the organizations, and the social structures. And then there has to be a willingness to change. For example, this is a very simple example. So you are trying to quit smoking. So you believe it's good for your health, and you also believe that it is possible to quit. You think you have that attitude to quit smoking. But you also have this norm, this subjective norm, that it is going to. There is this belief that your peers might not like it, but your family will accept it. That is the subjective norm, and then you will decide, no. So I'm going to quit smoking, and also the government has increased the prices of the cigarettes, and they have banned smoking in public places. That will act as a control, and all this will help you change your behavior and quit smoking. So there is this another theory, diffusion of innovation theory. This tells about how a new innovation, how a new behavior, you can say, it sprawls through the community. So there will be people who will be very quick, who will call the innovators. Then there will be late adopters, there will be early majority, there will be late majority, and there will be laggards who will never try to accept that behavior, or maybe discard certain kind of behavior. This is not for individual behavior or personal behavior. This is again for a social construct. This is for a community to change its behavior. So innovators are mostly going to be young people. The early adopters will always be the people who see role models. So role models are very important when we are trying to see our strategy through the theory of this diffusion of innovation theory, because people see role models, people learn from role models, people get influenced by these people, and we can call them as agent of change, or vectors of change. These are the people, these will be innovators and early adopters, and then the rest of them will follow. And of course, there's going to be some gap between the early adopters and the early majority to adopt that behavior or scar the behavior. And then, of course, at the end of the curve, there will be some levels who won't want to have the innovation, have the change. So there are some other theories as well and models, but it is not possible to talk about all of them. But it is possible to go back and learn about these theories, so that when you are designing your own SPCC, you know which theories to go through, which is what things are going to help you, at what stage you need what kind of inputs, needs to be given, and so on. Okay, so we have seen the behavior change part. So we talked about there are components, right? S, B, C, C. So we talked about BC, which also in which we also talked a little about the S factor. Now the C, that is the communication. We talked about BC, the behavior change, and now it's C. So what that C is, that is, because it's public health discussion, this is about health. We saw, let's go back and just quickly revise. We saw that we need to maintain the healthy population as healthy and bring back the unhealthy to the healthy population. And for that, we need health promotion. And how health promotion can be done? It can be done through communication. It can be done through education. Okay, so this is health communication. What is health communication? जो शब्द है, so the word itself is telling you, it's simply like we understood what is health promotion. The strategies that help you promote and maintain the healthy life. Health communication, these are the communication that are made so that people modify certain factors, certain behaviors to improve health. You are communicating so that health can be achieved or health can be maintained. That is simple, health communication. So what are you trying to communicate? You are trying to communicate information, knowledge, idea, thought, perception, feeling. All this can be communicated. It is not necessarily just the information. It can also be an idea, a thought, and you are trying to impart it, transfer it, exchange it. So when I say exchange, it has to be one way or two way. It has to be two way, because exchange then only will happen. So because this is a discussion around SBCC, when we think of SBCC, we never think of a one-way communication. We always think of a two-way communication. You think this is right communication? I mean, this could be right for for just telling. I mean, this is exactly what is happening here at this webinar. I have bound you people. You have to listen and listen and listen and not speak a word and not share your idea, because it's not, it's not here. It's not very feasible to have interaction. But this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going on without having any interaction. So SBCC, you are not going to do this. This will result in, this is not going to bring the desired outcomes that you want to achieve. So communication, I think you will have in-depth sessions on health communication and health promotion. So because I have to talk about SBCC, I just want to touch on these things, because it's of no use talking only about SBCC and not giving you the other piece of puzzle, because it is all interrelated. So I'll be quickly talking about communication as well. There are certain components to communication. For you to communicate, for a project or program to communicate to the participants, there has to be a purpose, there has to be an objective. That so there is this population where the prevalence of anemia is very high. And please excuse me, I need to have some more. Yeah. So for a communication to happen, we need to have a purpose and objective. And then you have to recall your project management classes. That objective needs to be clear. It has to be smart objectives and all that thing. So I'm telling you, this is all a big puzzle where all your knowledge, where all your theory, where all your compassion, all your own beliefs and attitudes have to come in for you to have this puzzle completed and to provide strategy and to develop SPCC and then maybe produce some results out of it. It is not in a silo that SPCC, okay, I don't know anything about epidemiology, but my communication skills are great. I can make great flyers. I can make great jingles on the radio. It is not going to help. You have to have all the pieces together in order to produce a meaningful piece of communication that will help bring some change individual's behavior and will shift the norms in the social context from a harmful or a dangerous one to a more productive and beneficial and healthy one. Okay, so whenever communication is happening, so here you see a receiver, you see a sender, but I don't think that poor man can give a feedback or that poor man can say a word. But in a good communication, there'll be receiver, there'll be sender, there'll be message, which will be the content of your communication. There'll be methods. What methods are you using? In this case, a loudspeaker is used. You can use many things. And then there has to be feedback. There has to be monitoring. There has to be evaluation. And so that it's not like SPCC is not paracetamol that everybody who is getting fever in this pandemic just take paracetamol and get done with it. It is not going to be like that. You will have purpose and objective. You will design your messages. You will think that it is going to work, but when you will evaluate, it has not worked. You have failed, and you have to come back to again structuring, to again analyzing, and this is how you will be able to have some results, some desired outcomes. Other than that, it won't work. It won't work in Xylo at all. So this is how communication occurs. I think I won't speak much because it's very much you decode and code. First of all, you bring pieces of information and you make a message. What messages do we listen? कड़ाई नहीं, ढिलाई नहीं, जब तक कोरोना की दवाई नहीं, things like that. You encode a message, and the message is transferred through channels and received, and it is received by the receiver, the population, the participants, whoever is there, and then they decode it. Okay, so what they mean is so by the time there is no vaccination or medicine, we have to wear masks. So this is the decoding that the receiver will do, and then they will make the piece of information and then they will send you feedback. There might also be distortion that what you intended to say didn't actually, made sense at the receiver's end. So that at that point distortion will be there. So this is how the communication process, in simpler terms, this is how it can look. But then there'll be there'll be context. Receiver के end पे there will be context, source के end पे there could be biases. So all this, it looks simpler, but when you will try and develop a strategy, you have to be very, very careful and you have to be very, very context specific. Okay, so what channels do we use? And this is for all communications, but this is also for SPCC. So I hope you are understanding that when I'm saying communication, I also mean that it includes SPCC. Okay, so there are two types of channels. Channels means just the medium, just get through your message is going to travel from sender to receiver. They can be interpersonal, that is you and me talking here about SPCC, about health behaviors, that is interpersonal. Some patient coming to the doctor, that is interpersonal. Home visits, interpersonal, sorry. So that is those are the examples of interpersonal channels of communication. Then there are broadcast or the mass method, or mass media, as we say, television, radio, newspapers, internet, SMS, billboards. So these are all the examples of mass media. And what works the best? because you're going to be working not with individuals, you're going to working with a group of people, maybe a whole district, maybe a whole state, someday maybe a whole country. So you have to be, very strategic with what channels you use, what type of channel is available with the receiver. If, say, lockdown, the news of lockdown would have only been circulated in social media or in television, you think it would have reached the villages, the photograph that I have shown you in the starting slide, there is this house in the hilltop. You think it would have reached there? Definitely not. You have to have a mix of channels in order to have the communication move from sender to receiver and then bring about whatever change you are expecting it to bring. Okay, now I'll come. So, all these things we did so that we can understand SBCC. It was very important. I'm sorry I took a lot of time in giving you the foundation because it is absolutely important to know the theories, to know what is communication, to be careful of what biases you can have while having this strategy is very important. So SBCC, social and behavior change communication, is nothing but it is a process where you have interaction with the community, with the individual, with institutions, parts of societies through a program so that you can disseminate information, you can motivate people, you can solve their problem, and then again you can plan and you can restart it. So basically, what I have been saying from starting, you use communication to bring behavior change that will help you bring change in the social norms. And this doesn't have to happen in the 1, 2, 3 manner. It can also go to 1, 2, 3, and then so sometimes there'll be certain condition where the norms have shifted because the age of marriage has shifted to 18 and people who don't follow it will be, heavily penalized. So then it will ultimately bring some behavior change. It can go either ways. Okay. The communication, we have seen what is communication, what is behavior change, and what is social change. So these 3 things are the elements of SBCC. Okay. So don't be him. And when I say don't be him, what I mean is so when I say don't be him, I mean him. So I am expecting that at least majority of you will know who he is. So he is Thanos. So he came from Titan. Titan is the moon of Jupiter. Some planet he came from. And he saw that there is a lot of problem, there's a lot of chaos in planet Earth. And he thought it's best to reduce the population by 50 and everything will go back to normal or everything will become gulzar. There'll be no sadness and no issues. But was he correct? So for those of you who have seen Avengers, he was absolutely wrong. He didn't consulted the gatekeepers. So in this context, the gatekeepers were the Avengers, the Nick Fury, and all those, the FBI and all those things. So he didn't consulted anybody. He didn't ask what the people want. He didn't analyze it deep enough to reach to the root cause. Is just population the issue, or there are certain things because you made the population disappear. Maybe after some years there'll be again baby boom, and we will double our population. That can happen. So what he did, he thought that he knows best. And in some terms you can say, yeah, he did had a good strategy. He was very concerned about the chaos of people, of the problems that planet Earth has. But that was not sufficient. That led to even bad results. The Earth was colorless. People were sad and sadder, and the things got saddest, and बद से बदतर होती गई चीजें. So when you are thinking of a SBCC strategy or any strategy, when you are thinking of bringing change in people's life, always keep them as always keep them in priority. Always think of them as that they know better than you about their problems, how it can be solved. Of course, you have the knowledge base, you have the best degree and the best qualification, but it is important to involve people, or unless you'll just behave. So my takeaway, that I have had from my education, from my practices, we don't have to be him. We have to be more. We have to be more inclusive of the ideas, of the people, of the issue, of the context, and not be him. So I'll tell this to you as well. Don't be him. Don't be Thanos. Okay. Well, so we are reaching to the end mostly. So SBCC, it employs a systemic and see, this is academic discussion, so I would like you to remember some of the definition, because it helps you make your answers look more scientific and help you get good grades. Although it's important to just having the basic understanding is enough, but sometimes having a good language, having a good construct helps you a lot. So you can go through this definition, and you'll definitely excel in your exams. But when you go to your field, remember this. But when you're writing, you can remember this. Okay. This is also basically talking about not being Thanos only. First, you should understand the situation. You should design. You should gather your knowledge base. You should design something, create it, and then implement it while you are monitoring it. Don't implement it like we have sent the jingles out. Let it do the magic. But that magic is not going to happen unless you are monitoring. Okay. And then keep evaluating, keep replanning, and this is how your strategy will work and the desired outcome will be achieved. So at the end, I want to bring in a small piece of change that we were able to achieve through our program. So I told you before coming to PHRN, I was working with City. So there is this Transform Rural India initiative. Under that, there are different organizations who come together to work for the betterment of lives of rural population, and they work on education, basically, like agriculture and livelihood, and health. And I was associated with the health part for a little while, for the time I was there. So you can see I put a clip from Times of India. It was published in 10 September 2019. Yeah. So what happened is we have employed the self-help group members as change vectors. So we did their residential training on components of health, very basic, simple training on what are the healthy behaviors, how things to be done in a life cycle approach, the 1000-day approach. So we have used very simple piece of information we have given to them. We have reinforced with that information, and a lot of change has happened. But what I wanted to share is this was unique. This made the headlines. This was unique, and it was good to see. And I'm proud to present this. Although this was not my idea. This project was ongoing when I joined. I was lucky enough to join this. So what happened is these change vectors, these self-help group members were told that cooking in an iron kadhai is better for your iron levels. It might help to reduce anemia levels in the community. And this thing, if you remember the innovation of diffusion theory, this thing was very quickly adopted by some of the self-help groups. They were very quick because they had this old, they have heard this from their ancestors as well. The iron kadhais are much better. So those of you who don't know kadhai, this is a wok. This is a utensil in which you cook. The Hindi word is kadhai. So iron kadhai, that is loha mill. So basically the big heavy black one. Uh, so some of the change vectors were very quick in adopt that behavior, and then some followed those change vectors, and at the end we started this a year back, and by 2019, 1,200 women purchased iron kadhais in the district. I'm talking about the Torpa block, and the entire Jharkhand, the number climbed to 2,300 women. That's a big number for an investment to be done. I was associated with Cine in West Bengal. Also, there was a big change. 428 households bought it and used it. You can see in the pictures as well. So this is how, when you understand the context, when you think, when you provide the right knowledge, when there is an enabling environment, because these kadhais were not very expensive. It costed 250 to 300 rupees depending upon what size they are going for. We provided them enabling environment. Okay, so this is not a very costly affair to be done. This can be done easily, and then we reiterated the knowledge they have from their ancestors. This is a better utensil to cook. So you put all the pieces, and you have to reinforce it and provide the knowledge and understand the context, and you definitely reach to some results. So, but this is the stage where the action has done and some maintenance is done. I don't know if they will, if they have relapsed to using the steel kadhai. That I'm not there to monitor that, and also the project has also ended. So, I think my time is over, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, I have reached the end. So this is how this movement helped. This is a big example of how behaviors can change, and how you have to be strategic and very context specific, and you can achieve the desired outcomes. Then of course I have to monitor the anemia levels, and of course that part is remaining. But since we are talking about change in behavior, some change has been definitely worked. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nagma. Thank you for this wonderful session. The session actually helped us understand the very basics of behavior change communication, and also to how prepare strategies which are effective and its field level application. Thank you so much. I'm sure that our audience would have benefited a lot, and this session. I would like to open the session for interaction and ask our audiences to unmute themselves and share their queries, comments, reflections on the session. A quick 2-minute round of question and answers if any of the audiences have.
I mean, this is so unfair, Priya. I took all the time, and it's just 2 minutes. Your poor students are not even, getting the time to question me or, share their experiences. I'm really sorry, but let's do it. If I can at least take one reflection.
1 or 2 questions will be great.
Yeah.
So,
I would again request you all, please, just for 2 minutes, if you can open your cameras and just make me feel that I'm talking to a bunch of, yeah. I am very old school, I tell you. I am very uncomfortable with this medium of communication.
Hello?
anyone? Yeah, Vinodji, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Magma ma'am. I think this is really, really helpful session for us, and thank you so much for organizing this. And I just have one question on, like, I'm from Nepal. I'm a doctor. So, like, we work in tobacco and alcoholism kind of project here, and we are trying to follow up the stages of changes model that you have mentioned, like pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. And the real challenge in this hospital and in the community is that they come again and again with relapse. So do you have specific advice or tips or any ideas how we can make this program very strong from your experience in this project.
Yeah. So I can give you a very quick analysis of this. You cannot, you will never be able to maintain that behavior that people do not relapse unless you find out the cause of their relapse. I know in hospital settings it gets very difficult to have qualitative information from the people, but it is very important to learn what has been the cause of relapse. And when you know the cause, and when again they are in the contemplation stage, you will help them. And this time, when you want them to maintain, to prepare for a behavior change, at that time you will provide them with information and enabling factors that made them fall into relapse in the first place. This is a very qualitative approach, very person to person approach. I'm not sure if it's possible in your setting, but this is one thing that can be done and that should be done. So, you have to find out the root cause for relapse. And whatever you found out, you have to gather knowledge how to overcome it. And when the person is in the preparation stage, when they are again preparing to quit alcohol or quit tobacco, you have to provide them with the enabling factors and the reasons why not to quit the behaviors. I think this is a quick answer I have right now.
Thank you, ma'am. Very informative.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else who has any questions for Dr. Nagma? So I can see a lot of appreciation for the session on the chat in the chat box. I see people really loved it. Yeah. So they don't have any questions. We have a small token of appreciation for you. I'll just share on the screen. So a small token of appreciation for your valuable time that you gave towards this webinar and for making understand social behavioral change communication in such simple words to our students. Thank you so much, Nagma.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you, everybody. मैंने बांध के तो रखा था, but still, howsoever one way it was, I am hopeful that you will appreciate what SBCC is. You will appreciate how to utilize these theories in your, when you are in the field, when you are in the capacity of managers or whatever. So, all the best, and thank you for hearing out to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. It was a wonderful session. Thank you.
Okay. So shall we go now?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you.